room. The only way to start your day.
Stone is not afraid of the rain. The stone is nearly always wet. Let me repeat it again. A waterside stone is not afraid of rain. The stone is nearly always wet. Senator, how would you interpret that?
You know, I was still thinking about what you began with. What's up?
Your plan, eh?
And you know the way you spoke like President Ruto. We have a plan.
My plan is very simple. My plan, if I could get my way, is to make President Ruto one-term president. That's my plan.
Okay.
Because many Kenyans, you know, you're talking about people planning investments, quality life after retirement. In the economy that we're in, the situation that we are in now, that doesn't make sense to a lot of Kenyans.
The plan I want you now to have is to interpret my problem.
So I don't want to lose sight. I don't know. How do I interpret that saying? You said?
The waterside stone is never afraid of rain. The stone is nearly always wet. See that stone that is always next to a river does not fear rain because it is always wet. How would you interpret that?
I think what it's telling us is there is very little you should fear in life. Every challenge you face every day, it's always there with you. There is nothing really new under the sky. Because the stone is next to the river, it's always wet. So it doesn't fear the storm. Whether the storm comes, it rains, it's always wet. Yeah. Hope I've got it right.
Your interpretation is always right. Yeah, Douglas.
Thank you very much. This stone at the riverside caught itself there for whatever reasons. And my interpretation is that as Kenyans, we've got ourselves where we are. Murky state of politics, bad economy, poor governance, violation of human rights, and name it. There are quite a number of issues that I can speak to it. And therefore, we don't have to be afraid. We have to bear with it until 2027 so that we may resolve the problems.
Okay.
Yes.
Well said, well put, and let's just dive straight into it. 2027 is just across the corner, you know? Campaigns are ongoing. One would say it's not according to the law because the law is clear on when campaigns should start, but I digress. We are here today. But as we talk about 2027 and alignments that we see, political parties making strategies to win, to form power at the next election. Senator, you say your greatest plan now is one term. But even as that is the greatest plan, how is that going to take place?
Yeah, I think the sad part is that we are witnessing the death of multi-party democracy in Kenya. Because in a multi-party democracy, parties exist to take power from the regime that is in power. You are always an alternative government. Whether you are in a parliamentary system or a presidential system, you always look forward to bringing better policies than the regime that is in power. So what we should be talking about in Kenya is how the next biggest political party is scheming to take over power from a regime that is failing, that is the Uda regime. But now you have come up with this thing you're calling, some say it's broad-based government, whatever it is.
Your party is in it.
And I began by saying the sad part, you know, the sad part. And you're now witnessing people who are in a party that should be preparing to take over power, to provide different, better leadership, saying that we are going to support this government up to 2027. You know, you cannot tell Kenyans that you're going to work with a government to the tail end of the regime, then you make a U-turn and prepare to take over power from that regime. If you look at advanced democracies, you go to UK, when Labour defeated the Conservative, what the Conservative is trying to do is to prepare to be a better alternative government in the next election. The Green Party is working day and night to come up with better policies, demonstrating to the British people that we can be a better alternative government. We can come up with better taxation policies, better healthcare policies, etc. In the US, you saw we went through some elections last week. The Democrats, I think, won in Virginia. They won in New Jersey, the gubernatorial elections. In California, the preposition 50, the drawing of boundaries is to ensure that in the next elections, the Democrats will send more people to House of Representatives as Democrats. They are not running helter-skelter to show that they are in bed with the Republican Party. They are actually telling Americans that this Trump is a scam, will be a better alternative. So I really pray that in this part of the world, we can have politics where you accept that if you have lost an election, you wait for the next 5 years to take over power and provide alternative leadership. Not this thing of telling us that we all must serve in cabinet for the country to move
to get to first world status.
To move forward.
But,
so I think what we should be doing now is putting in place structures of rolling out our campaign maybe from mid next year as a party, showing Kenyans that we can indeed be an alternative government.
And Senator, just sticking with that for a short while. Yes, we've not had an experience whereby an elected president has been left for a whole term to do their business and deliver on their manifesto and their agenda. Then we judge them on that. Because for the last, 4 or 5 elections, there's always been a cooperation, handshake, nusu mkate, however you name it. And sometimes I feel that has compromised the authenticity of our election and the credibility of the would-be leaders, because that would have helped us to wipe out or revote again those presidents. Now, we find ourselves in a unique situation. One, there is a departed leader of the opposition, the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Now, his party, which was a big political party and movement and shaper of the politics, is also, as you know, which is your party, has its own domestic issues. And we hope you can put your house in order in time. But the concern is that having joined the broad-based government and wanting to remain in it, as you say, and purporting that we honor with it up to a certain time, yet the people who are the ODM members and fellow Kenyans are disgruntled by the leadership of the same regime that ODM is purporting to support. That double speak, where does it lead us? And perhaps as you ventilate on that, we have a constitution. We should be led by the rule of law. There is a clause on the Retirement Benefits Act of a president that says once you leave office, 6 months after, you should not lead a political party. Our former president is a party leader of Jubilee. Where are your thoughts on this?
Okay, first I think I've my own issues around that, because we have absolute rights under the Constitution, and one of the absolute rights is right of association, right of expression, and the likes. And giving you an example of what happens in other jurisdictions, I've not seen a situation where in America, the country tells a president who has retired that you cannot engage in politics. Though it's more, the way they do their politics, it's much more decent. It's not the way we do it. A party is not a property of an individual. President Obama does not own the Democratic Party, neither does retired President Biden or Bill Clinton. But they are firm and committed members of that party. So anytime the electoral cycle comes, you will see Bill Clinton step out and pitch and support a Democratic candidate in a presidential election. Or even if you are observing the US elections last week, Obama was out there campaigning for Democratic governors in New Jersey, in
New York,
Virginia, okay, which is okay, and the mayor in New York, okay, showing that they are committed members of that party. They identify with the ideals of that particular political party. Now, I disagree with this notion that a president who has retired in Kenya should not engage in any politics. I think a member of a political party, including a retired president, has a right to pitch and support for any candidate who is seeking an election under that political party. So to answer you is, I know that law exists, but I really think that it's in direct conflict with the Constitution, which gives us absolute rights. So just like in other civilized democracies, any member of a political party, including a retired president, has a right to pitch for that party to take over leadership in a democracy.
Douglas, I want to look at 2027, the elections that are coming. So we have our EBC that is registering Kenyans, 6.3 million is their target as we approach the election day. Voter turnout is low. But even as the political class is realigning itself, preparing for the next election, we're seeing a lot of movement that is happening, And even as these realignments are taking place, the bottom line question is, are these realignments for the benefit of the people of Kenya, or are these realignments so that the political class can continue being there? Because we have to look at the manifestos that will come, the promises that will come, and we have to look at all these promises, manifestos, and plans with the history. So who is this that is promising us heaven? And how does their history look like?
Thank you very much. Professor has just indicated that the American democracy is a little bit advanced than Kenyan and African for that matter. And Kenyan political parties cannot be distinguished from the people and individual around a political party. And that's why from historical moment you find that an exit of a political party, then immediately you see death of that political party or disgruntled. That is from KANU in 2002, Kibaki in 2013. Uhuru exited recently, but is trying to find his way, struggling against Gachagua, meaning then that there is a little bit of a problem around that region. Look at the exit of Baba, may soul rest in eternal peace. Oburu is trying to fit into the shoes, but again also he doesn't have legitimate authority of that political party. He didn't find it. In fact, for anything, he has been a beneficiary of his brother as a senator in many other ways. So Raila has been an outstanding person, and therefore it's common sense that ODM was owned by Raila Odinga and owned by people of Nyanza and largely beyond Nyanza. And therefore there's a relationship between an individual and the following that supports that political party. That then informs that for these realignments, they are not individual based as such. They are backed by the people who support that political party. And just look around it. The DCP, the Wiper Democratic Movement Party, ODM, Kenya Kwanza, UDA, look at DAP Kenya and others. You find that those political parties have their strengths in the regions that their leaders come from. Because as a country, we are multi ethnic, and therefore you cannot disassociate our politics. In fact, we need to look at ethnicity in a very positive way, in a manner in which our diversity makes it good for us as Kenyans to understand our different history, our different background, economic, cultural behavior, and so forth. And therefore, you cannot divorce the two.
But I also can't divorce the fact that the leadership of, let's take the United Opposition, for example, this is, he calls it coalition of the deputies,
Yes.
So,
Coalition of
the deputies. So let's take United Opposition, for example, right? If you look at all the leaders who are the key principles of United Opposition, they have all been part and parcel of a government at some point.
Yes.
They've all served together at some point.
Yes.
And today, as we sit here, Kenya would ask, what is United Opposition bringing on the table that is different from that point? Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says that Kibaki did a lot of work, right? Uhuru took government, did a lot of amazing stuff, right? The government that he was party to got to power and has destroyed everything. If he is coming in with the promise of a better future, better Kenya, how do we divorce him from his previous statements? How do we divorce him from the fact that the government that he is bashing today, he was part and party to it?
One, I agree with you as a coalition of deputy president for reasons, because that's a very unique position to hold in the Republic of Kenya. Way back from Jaramogi, Odiga, name them, including Saitori and these two. And you find yourself in a very difficult situation whereby your boss then is a little bit uncomfortable from one time. In fact, most of presidents are very careful with their deputies in the manner in which they get themselves. One is in next State House, the other one is far away in Karen, and how they operate is different. And that's how it has been world over because of succession and many issues. But just to put it to you, who has put the united opposition together, or who has created the united opposition? Two factions. One, President William Ruto has forced Kenyans to come together and reason and discuss the issues that are being ventilated by the citizens of Kenya. So the other component that have really put people together to be perceived as one movement is the people of Kenya, because they are against the current administration at is. And you know very well, because of issues of economy, the legislation around it, violation of human rights, democracy, cost of living, and name it. And therefore, that's what they're saying, that what brings Kenyans together is the current administration and its management of public affairs and governance. Now, whether it is going to be Kalonzo, Eugene Wamalwa, Rigathi Gachagua, and all other politicians that have been there before, even if they were to exit stage today, you still get another subsequent leaders coming together, because already the base is united against a certain kind of an administration, which is Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, that I'm telling you that it is unlikely that a politicians will lead a front that doesn't have masses behind it. And what is influence? In fact, for the first time in Kenya, people of Kenya are more united against the current administration, said that leaders have to flow with the people. It is not the leaders convincing the people on the way. Should you fall outside that, then I'll tell you. And that explains why. And I sympathize with a lot of respect with Senator Okongo Mogani, who is a senator elected on a ODM ticket from a ODM zone for the last 5 or 10 or 15 years or so. But he can categorically state to you that the will of the people that he represents is against the current political party that he was elected on, that has gone on a broad-based government. And then it follows without saying that a landed senator he must align with the people, and therefore it's not about Senator Okongo Morgan. He's practicing his responsibility as an elected leader to represent the will first and the wishes of the people, not to take them in the direction that they do not wish to. So therefore, the least common multiple denominator that determines the unity of the united opposition is the people of Kenya, not even the leaders.
Mr. Speaker,
The challenge we have in Kenya, as a senator, as indicated, is these political parties are just special purpose because for politicians. And these politicians never ever have succession plans. That is why today ODM is a tower of Babel. Anybody and everybody in ODM is making policy pronouncements around the political party. One, we must be in government, or we must be in the coalition in government. Another one says we'll work with them till 2027. And another one says we are not in government. I'm the one who signed that document.
Yeah.
Because the glue holding ODM together has melted. Mr. Raila Odinga is no longer in the room. And deliberately, either by omission or commission, he ensured there was no succession plan, so that nobody knows who is leading ODM. And ODM has never had an election. So anybody in office today would not claim that they've got the mandate of the people to lead the political party. That is why every Tom and Dick and Harry within the party is presenting a party position. I mean, the last few days you see news releases and statements coming from ODM signed by everybody. Oh, Gladys Wanga, this one is saying this one is saying this. Till now you get confused. The challenge we have is, and they may not admit it, that Kalonzo Musyoka is the glue holding WEPA together today. If Kalonzo today takes a decision that I'm going to work with President Ruto, everybody within WEPA will say that is a wise decision. In fact, we are waiting for that decision. Because in most of these political parties, when their leaderships are wrong, nobody will ever tell them they're wrong. Like, for instance, when Raila Odinga was, most of the time he was right, but he was also wrong. But nobody had the alacrity to tell him, Mr. Raila Odinga, you are wrong. And you see now the way Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka is behaving. Actually, his trip to Western Kenya, in my view, I think that was an amazing trip. That is why people were saying that Kalonzo is a softie. And then they're saying, he's a bit meek, he doesn't have the killer instinct. you cannot underrate him. You cannot underrate Kalonzo Musyoka, who has not been in power for a long time, but everybody within his political party is dancing to their drum beats. That is even the speaker is very cautious with his statements, because if he mispronounces himself right now, he'll get into trouble. Now, Kenya has got very powerful politicians, more powerful than political parties, if you underrate them at your own peril. Like, for instance, this gentleman from Nyamira, right now he's spoiled for choice on which seat to run for, because he has now aligned himself with the people. He's among the few guys who can run for any seat and they win. Even if he wants to become an MCA, he can still win. And another politician that you cannot underrate is Nairobi Governor Sakaja. People are saying, wait, it's going to be a one-term. Sakaja has managed to create an emotional connection with his voters. So while there are a number of people are saying, oh, he has not delivered.
That is highly contested.
But the base is very, very solid. Base is very solid. You know, he's come up with a number of programs, feeding programs that are people like. Even for Senator's plan, you remember he spoke about the plan to make Ruto a one-term president. Again, he's also a gentleman that you cannot underrate. Somebody who became the president, who was swimming against the tide and became president, you can't underrate. But then, how do we make progress? For us to make progress, we must develop a very high appetite for building political parties anchored on ideologies. And I think because right now, there's no difference between ODM, Kenya Kwanza, Green Party. We have got about 90 political parties. There's no difference apart from personalities.
And that's where the senator comes in, Senator.
If you look at the emerging political formations, he mentioned, I call them the coalition of the deputies, because that's what they are largely. And then compare that or latch that on your goal of making the regime a one-term, which seems to the unanimous call by all Kenyans. We are all behind you and with you. But the looming question is, then what? Because we don't want to have a change of a person and bring in a worse person or our regime that will not directly serve the interest of the Kenyans. We don't want these special convoys, special vehicles to be just to settle what you call personal vendettas, like we have seen. You know, the impeached deputy president is hell-bent, but for him, it is personal, and we know that. Then we have all these other coalition of parties that are coming together and saying they are the opposition, yet they are not, because remember, before even the deputy president was impeached, people are saying, Kufa dereva, Kufa Makanga. They wanted this regime home. Just we got one out, but we're still going for the next one. When you look at it, do we have a chance of now voting on ideology? Because culture, heritage and ethnicity, those are our resources. They should not be negatives. Do we have a chance of 2027 that we'll vote on an agenda as we take this regime and bring on board a regime that will transform us economically and propel us towards the direction we deserve?
You have fantastic points, and I wish Dismas and you could join the think tanks for political. Because I like what you are bringing out, politics of ideology.
Yes.
You know, if you look at many of these countries, it is actually ideology and policies that define whether you do one term or you do two terms. It's not just about coming up with rhetoric and say we are going to remove so and so. You remember in the 80s, George Bush Senior. I don't know that they call him George H.W. Bush, the senior. You know, he was a very, very popular president, and he was destined to do two terms. At the tail end of his presidential term, he was misled by Congress, and he increased taxes for Americans. Yet, in his campaign, he had given Americans an assurance that under my regime, I'll never increase taxes. He wrote into office on that promise that under my regime, I'll not raise taxes. So the Americans said, no. These are deceptive leaders. He promised us he will not raise taxes, and the election was around taxation. Americans just coalesced around a movement of removing Bush because he had increased taxes. That's how he lost an election. How I wish that those who want to remove President Ruto can coalesce around an ideology. And you know, we can borrow from other jurisdictions. Singapore, when Lee took over power in Singapore, the first demon he wanted to exercise was corruption. And he said, you will not move this country forward unless we eradicate corruption. And there was nobody untouchable. Whether you are a cabinet minister, you are his friend, nobody was untouchable. And we know, all of us in this room, we know that corruption is the biggest impediment on our development as a country. So if we can get parties, and I'm sorry to criticize some of my friends in the political field, if you continue this trajectory that I want to be a leader who commands the Kamba, I want to be a leader who commands Kisses, I want to be a leader who commands Central Kenya, we are losing it.
Yes.
We need to create a party that in Malaysia, nobody cares whether you are Chinese, whether you are Indian, whether you are Malay, you get it. We should also get that level where if this much Mukwa can convince Kenyans that even if he is from that small tribe called Kisi, but he has the ideologies, he has ideas that can transform the country, Kenyans should rally behind him, just the way we did in 202 behind Kepang. So the first problem is how to kill all these parties that are said to be owned by individuals. Do you know, can I tell you this? Do you know that it is you, the five of us, who fund those parties? Do you know that those parties are funded by taxpayers' money? We give them money to have structures, to have an executive director, to have people in office, to run, a party that can be a machinery that is owned by the people. So if I'm funded by taxpayers, why should I have a party that is owned by a tribe called Kisi?
And that brings me to the next question, Senator. We have political parties that Disma says are political vehicles for individuals. Special purpose vehicles for individuals to get to power. But I want to look at political parties that are owned by the people. Political parties with ideologies. Political parties that address challenges and issues being raised by Mwananchi. Because political parties and the leadership that are being put into office are there to offer solutions, are there to give guidance. It is like you've asked, fine, one term, and then? So what then is the plan that comes after one term? What is the plan that follows William Ruto has gone home? This is our agenda. This is our promise. We will achieve this by doing A, B, C, D. Corruption is our biggest problem in the country. What is our promise around dealing with corruption as a political party that wants to kick out the president? Because we will sit and say, fine, one term. Kenyans want one term. Fine, Kenyans want one term. But after the fact, Kenyans will ask, and then what was your plan? How are you getting us to the promised land, to Canaan, that we're supposed to head to?
Thank you very much. Allow me to disagree a little bit on the fact that Kenyan political parties are owned by individuals. In fact, Kenyan political parties are centered around ethnic groups, whether Luo Nyanza, whether Kisii, whether Coast Region, whether Ukambani, and so forth. And we cannot run away from that from 1963 because we have to look at the aspect of civilization of our people, the nature of our academics in school and the curriculum the way it is, and how we have socialized the young people that are called Gen Zs. Perhaps in future, in the next 10, 15 years, you will be getting where we are. But at the moment, how we are doing our things, including how we have teachers in our primary schools in the same region, because you find all principals in Kisii are Kisis, and naturally they are Kisis, and Kisii are unique people, the way they live. And much as they are engulfed within the Nyanza region, Luo Nyanza, they have never been swallowed. That is an identity that we positively identify with. Therefore, if a leader emerges from a community X, for example, from a Kisii community, and a political party is agreed with by the society, then that is a political party founded on the basis of an ethnic group. And therefore, the only instrument of representation in clarion call for power may not be the individuals in political party, but they amalgamate or coalesce around that around that community. And then they come 2007 to be a replica, for example, of 2002. 2002 was not an ideology. Everyone was against Moi. That's a fact. And all political parties that formed NAK and NAC then later, including Raila with his NDP that was swallowed by KANU, and those who fell out from KANU, established a Liberal Democratic Party. All of them, they coalesced their communities against Moi. That's how it happened. We can say it was an ideological way of saying that, but in fact, the clarion call was that Moi must go. Now, why is it difficult nowadays to promise Kenyans and give a printout and give them a printout indicating that this is your plan? There's no president ever in the Republic of Kenya who has ever been elected who has ever promised and had a better plan than William Ruto. And therefore, going to the citizens of Kenya, you must be very careful what you want to tell, because they've been lied to several times. So, one us to firstly understand and be able to present to citizens of Kenya what is not working and how it should be fixed. And then that put together will buy the people's trust to your side. The fact that you want to promise that you're going to do roads, you want to change education, you want to do ABCD, the current sitting president has done better than that, but doing exactly the opposite of that. And therefore, that is not going to be an entry point into the coming politics.
Mr. Speaker, which is, I want to agree with you that we must agree on what is not working for us as Kenyans. And I think what is not working for us is balkanization of our ethnicity.
Yes.
That has not worked. So we must stop that. That is old thinking, and it has brought us this far. But if you want to liberate this country, my thinking tells me what happened in 2002 was not a coalition about a person against a person called Moi. It was that regime that was oppressive. And we saw what happened to the economic expansion that followed when people, as you say, coalesced around an idea that we can be governed better and we can manage our resources better. So this time round, can we borrow that and then advance it by knowing that now we have a constitution? Remember, even Kibaki propelled the economy of this country with the old constitution. Now we have a better constitution nowadays that has a better public finance management system so that we can grow as a nation. If we allow ourselves, because these parties, we are the ones who subscribe to them. We are the one who become members. Like if you come from a region where ODM is dominant, you have to go for an ODM ticket. But why can we not come out and say, this is what I stand for in terms of character, as capacity, and then people will vote for you on that, so that when you go to the Senate or to the National Assembly, you shall not be compelled by a party position to defy what the people you represent want you to advance in the floor of the assembly.
Dennis,
is it not our responsibility as a populace to now say enough is enough? We shall not be balkanized again around ethnicity, and we define exactly what we want, because we are united by one factor: poverty.
Yeah, Dennis, before the speaker comes in, we cannot run away from the fact that political parties in Kenya are held by powerful political personalities. We have about 100 political parties formed by so many personalities, but we only have about 10 strong ones. So this political party is always aligned to that one powerful political personality from that ethnic community. Correct. Like for instance, in Central Province or the Mount Kenya region, there are a million political parties, but DCP is coming out very strong simply because of Rigathi Gachagua, despite his toxic brand of politics. Because you cannot have somebody who says he wants to unite the opposition, but every single statement he says, when I was negotiating cabinet seats for my counties is here a reference to Mount Kenya counties. So as somebody who comes from Nairobi County, who am I part of this deal? You cannot have somebody who has nationalized his personal issues. He wants to settle his personal scores with President Ruto, but he wants everybody to come on board. You cannot have somebody who wants the other members of the United Kenya opposition to kiss his ring. I mean, he wants Dr. Matiang'i and Dr. Kalonzo to be lapdogs. How do you claim that I'm now the spokesman, that if you want to speak with all these people, you must speak to me first? And Just Fatih is raising a very pertinent question. And the answer is, it's very easy to mobilize around your tribal numbers. Because you see Anasema, watu wa Mrima, I've got 7 million votes, and Anasema they're on his back pocket. But he's not mobilizing around ideas. Is not mobilizing around ideas. And I think that is our biggest challenge. And that is why a senator here, I think it deserves a pat on the back, that is actually registering his dissatisfaction with the way ODM is behaving. But I'm not sure he would have done this when Raila Odinga was alive. Because if you do it when the political party is alive, you're going to be denied a ticket. And this thing is not just limited to Kenya. It's all over the region, where you have a powerful person. And you know the way they've crafted their constitutions? They say the party can give you a direct ticket, or you can be subjected to a nomination. And this nomination, again, is not a nomination. I mean, ballot papers, something like that. So, if you don't mobilize around ideas, then at least let's get persons with character, capacity, and competence to run our political parties.
Senator.
Yeah, I think let me first correct Dismas. Raila Odinga was not dictatorial. So I would have still expressed myself the way I've expressed myself. In fact, I did express myself. But he kept saying that ODM is a very democratic party and it has room for dissenting voices. That's part of the democracy that he fought for a long time. But, I don't know. If I was to have my way, I would vote for a situation where we have two strong political parties as a country. Just like you go to the UK, you'll find there is Labour, Conservative. It's always a competition between those two. Or you go to the US, it's between the Democrats and the Republicans. Let's look for a bigger prize than just wanting to own a political party and controlling your base. If I was to speak with Kalonzo, I'll tell him, really, what is your biggest prize? Is to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. You don't want to have a legacy that you are the owner of Wiper Patriotic Front, nowadays you call it. Mm-hmm. You get it. You can aspire to come together, the way you put it, come together and have a good democratic way of picking flag bearers for that particular party. The way nominations happen in the US, the Republicans, Democrats, you get it. Mm-hmm. But to give comfort to people who are saying that the parties must be ethnic-based, you remember what happened to Mzee Chai. Mm-hmm. May God rest his soul in eternal peace.
40 people.
40 people. In 202, 40 people swept all elective seats in Gusii region. But in the run-up to 2007, he didn't get the mood of the people. And he still wanted to push people to rally behind 40 people. But
it did not.
The Abagusi nation was fed up with the idea of merging with the Kibaki regime at that time. And all members who had been elected and the 40 people lost their electoral seats, including the 40 people leader, Mzee Simon
himself,
including sitting cabinet ministers like Henry Obocha. So I want to give you comfort that if we Kenyans push the narrative that we want to bring an end to this idea of ethnic-based political parties, it can be done. Even where we were in single party, people used to say there is no way Moi will allow you to do away with Section 2. It went. In the judiciary, when I was president of Law Society of Kenya, we were pushing for reforms on how judges are picked, High Court judges, Court of Chief Justice. And I remember sitting in a discussion with the Attorney General Moswako, Martha Karua, and we were telling them, we want to change all this thing of waking up one day and you find the president has picked people who have the worst record in the legal profession, and then they are promoted to become judges. And I remember them saying, there is no way that preposition of Law Society can carry the day that you want judges to sit down and start applying to be interviewed for position of judge or chief justice. But you know what? Now I'm told many delegations from many African countries are coming to study.
It's a best practice.
It's a best practice. So we can do it. We can tell Rigiji that there is a bigger goal you can fight for more than just wanting to control Mount Kenya with your DCP. Be a part of a larger movement that wants to come up with better policies. If you want to develop this country, you must have a business-friendly regime. President Ruto has created a very hostile business regime. This taxation is making multinational companies run away from us. And we cannot move as a country, progress with those very punitive taxation regime. Businesses will run away. If you come together, all of you, and tell Kenyans, look, Kalonzo is qualified to be president, Matiang'i is, Rigiji is, but we can only have one candidate in 2027. Let us form a political party that belongs to all of us as Kenyans. And then we create a process of picking one candidate to be the flag bearer.
Senator, you speak so well, and here is a point where then we for a very long time we focused on political parties. We focused on leaders from all these ethnic regions who coalesced together to form that big political party. But how then do we bring Mwananchi to this conversation? in the sense that if the political class understands that the power belongs and resides with the people, that these political parties are funded by the people, therefore they are owned by the people,
Yes.
that we as a people, we as Kenyans, first deal with our own ethnic balkanization and understand that first we are Kenyans and we need to change how politics is played in the country. At the point when Kenyans realize the Eureka moment comes to them, would that be, one would say, a turning point for the country and how politics is played, and that would therefore lead to how management of country resources is done? Because if we do not decolonize ourselves from ethnic balkanization, then perhaps things might not change. Douglas?
You can't throw the water with the baby, as they say. And we cannot criticize our basis and origin. The uniqueness of this country and diversity of our ethnic groups should be looked at positively. And then ask ourselves, being a stepping stone at the foundation of this country, how do we use and apply them positively? For those who are applying ethnicity negatively, something that we need to address. But I still insist that the representation and sharing of national resources in the Republic of Kenya, including in Parliament, there is no way now and in the near future, perhaps later than 10 years, it may happen that you'll find that members of Parliament and senators will be so objective because they are elected into position through ethnic groups. And in every ethnic group, we find that they have different needs. There are policies that are required to be pushed in their particular regions in terms of the economy, in terms of social, political, education, name it, and infrastructure. And that's what brings people together as an identity. Because the essence of voting is to be in power to address issues affecting people in a certain community, demographically or geographically. And in this case, you'll find that our economy is, other than Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu, the rest of counties are geographically based. So whether it is central in terms of counties or a region, Nyanza or Rift Valley, in terms of a region, you find that there is uniqueness of human activities, economic activities, social activities, and any other that comes around. And therefore, legislate around that area. A president that is elected in that area must respond to the need who exist in one
Douglas, let me throw a spanner in the mix,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
A member of parliament elected in Makueni County, right? Legislator for Makueni County, goes to the National Assembly.
Yes.
At that point, who exactly is he representing?
People of Makueni County.
People of Makueni County.
Yes.
But when he's passing laws for who exactly?
For the country.
For the country.
So at that point,
And then it's in any
But-
event.
but- but-
like for instance, they referred to as members of the National
Assembly.
Mr. Speaker,
And-
as
and-
Dennis
and-
throws the spanner into works, as Speaker, we have devolution
Yes, yes.
to cater for the uniqueness of the humans of those respective counties. So, are we saying that then we overlook the constitutional provisions so that then we end up with a president whom we are trying to appease so that we can have development? Devolution caters for all these regional needs.
No, not really. And allow me be very brief.
In fact,
as a matter of practice,
Speaker,
Professor.
if you go to Article 2 or 3,
Yes.
even when going through budget making process, there is an obligation on every member of National Assembly to ensure that there is equitable
Yes,
development.
distribution.
Yes.
And this
And-
nonsense of people going, before to the people and telling them, if we are not in government, we'll never get development. That is utter nonsense. It's actually unconstitutional.
And I think those
there
people
is
should
no
be arrested.
single provision in the Constitution that says if you elect a member from opposition, then in budgetary allocation for development, your constituents will be denied development. There is no such
So your
provision.
constituents will not get CDF.
CDF. CDF is given equitably. When we share resources as the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, we will not exclude Makueni because Makueni is governor, is elected on Wiper Democratic.
Even independent
We share,
members of Parliament.
we share
yes.
resources equitably to develop Kenya as a country.
Douglas.
Yes, spanner in the works. And Professor, allow me to speak as a speaker. The responsibility of an elected leader is not just to give my experience, not that I'm speaking on behalf of this, is to represent, to legislate, and oversight. Now, representation, you are not representing Kenyans in the National Assembly. You're representing your electorate within a confine of a constituency X. But constituency X, for purposes of emanation and origin, is neighbor to A, B, C, and D. And therefore, issues affecting those people socially and economically, you find them in that particular geographic region, including the neighboring ethnic community, how we settled in this country. You find that there has to be legislators have to represent their people individually or collectively because of a common agenda to pursue resources or policies that advance the welfare of the people in terms of implementation of policies. Now, that legislation is completely a different thing because budget and appropriation process is a legislative process of allocation of state resources using a mature budget. But that doesn't happen because when you go to parliament, you find that parliament does not resonate as parliament. It's an extension of influence of a political party led by the president or as a mayor in that parliament. And therefore, you find legislators who legislate in line and inclined, influenced by the numbers in parliament, goes to the place of numbers in line with the government of the day. For example, ODM and Kenya Kwanza are voting towards policies proposed and projected by Kenya Kwanza administration. Whether Kenyans will agree to it or not, it doesn't matter. But for those who claim to be in opposition, they will come together again as a team based on ethnic or an issue and look at the ethnicity positively, for that matter. Because they are building blocks of this country that you cannot ignore. And I've told you we will lose them at a point whereby in the next 20, 15 years, Gen Zs will be seated where I'm seated. And so, Professor Okongo Mbugano, because the nature of socialization agent, which is the education and the policies in Kenya, that time will have dissolved because our curriculum will pull out the vernacular and integration of the community will have. Because you find so many campuses.
Senator.
We have 2 years, not 15 years.
Yes.
Senator, yes.
Yeah, you know, if you read our constitution, Parliament is powerful beyond measure. There's nothing that Parliament cannot say no to, including budgetary proposals from the executive. If Parliament says no, that budget will be taken back. You're seeing what's happening in the US, where the Senate, Congress has caused shutdown for the last,
yes,
I think today is the 41st day. Those are the kind of powers that the Kenyans in 2010 bestowed upon Parliament. You know, you can't even pick a CS without the nod of Parliament. Parliament has power to fire everybody, including the president. Parliament can fire the president. That's how powerful that institution of Parliament is. But the problem is this idea of patronage towards the president of the day.
Thank you.
You know, and it's a big problem. The Kenyan people gave us one of the best constitution in the world in terms of how to ensure that there is accountability, there is oversight, reducing the presidential powers. But the problem is us who sit in Parliament, who believe that we should listen more to what is happening up the hill, that what we should be doing as parliamentarians. And I don't know how we will ever fix that problem. I saw a documentary in CNN on the retirement of Nancy Pelosi, a former Speaker of Congress. And you know, they were saying that Nancy Pelosi allowed congressmen and women to flourish because she respected their decisions. If you push an agenda from the executive and you know, a senator or a member of the House of Representatives says no, she respected that as their constitutional right. Because you're not a puppet of the president. You are there to represent, of course, your constituents, but again, you have a bigger call on national interest. When you're vetting a CS, you're not vetting that CS to go and serve your constituents. You're vetting a CS to serve the entire country. When you're passing a budget, you're not passing a budget just for your constituents. You're passing a budget for the entire country. That's why the role of senators in countries where we have a bicameral parliament, the Senate is there to protect the interest of all the states. That's why in America, a big state like California, with 37 congressmen, has only 2 senators. The same with South Dakota. That is a very small state. Because all these guys, when they go to the Senate, they are supposed to represent the interest of all the 50 states and not one single state. So me, I want to urge Kenyans not to give up. You know, we cannot retire and say now we are going to allow ethnic-based political parties to flourish. There is nothing we can do. Let us continue pushing the agenda. You saw even the party that was led by Matiba. I think Fodasili in 1992. It swept many of the elective seats in central Kenya.
Yes.
But I think in 1997, even its biggest allies like Martin Shikuku lost an election because Kenyans were tired. So we can also do the same. We can push a narrative in 2027 that we want a party that can tell us what will be your taxation policy, what will be your manifesto, what will your manifesto tell us about fighting corruption, what are you going to tell us about infrastructure development, so that we can turn around this country, transform our economy, so that Kenyans can get out of poverty. When we began here, we said what unites all of us is poverty.
Yes,
you know, politicians who anchor their political capital from these tribal numbers have no incentive to fight poverty. Because the moment you fight poverty, then you lose your numbers.
Yes.
I mean, a question we keep on asking every single day the sun comes out. Lake Victoria, understand, is a freshwater lake.
It is.
How come we don't sell fish from Lake Victoria in the European Union markets? There's a company in Kenya called Homegrown. They sell vegetables and stuff like that in those international markets. Understand, there's an international airport in Kisumu. So how come the people who are fishing right now, they don't get the fish, it's treated and prepared for the international markets? The reason being, the elected leaders around that region, they know that when these guys are empowered, they'll have no time for these tribal censors. I mean, that is the obvious logic. Because any elected leader, he wants an ignorant mass. Because can you imagine, if now everybody had access to information, it would be practically impossible to manipulate people. And in my view, Kenyans must start now penalizing politicians whose only call for national office is tribalism. That I have to mobilize around my ethnic number, I have to mobilize around my clan. And that is why some of the statements made by the speaker are extremely disappointing. Because if you've been elected as a member of the National Assembly, you are representing people from my constituency. You can do your work without excluding the rest of Kenyans. But because they know that the only person who will make you go home is the party leader, then they kiss the party leader's ring. Because after all, you only need to be loyal to the party leader. It's the late Kamotho who indicated at some stage that during a certain election, even if a dog stood on a certain political party, it would actually win an election. And that is what obtains in Kenya today, which is a sad state of affairs.
I think for us all Kenyans, I want to implore ourselves to understand that they want us to remain poor, they want us to think tribal, so they can continue taxing us unjustly. We must rise and vote on an agenda, an economic agenda in 2027. Nothing short of that.
So, Douglas, how critical is an agenda that unites Kenya as a whole, not an agenda that unites an ethnic region or an ethnic community, but an agenda that unites all Kenyans being center and front in the next election? And how much of a game changer will that be?
The agenda is economic transformation. And the unit of a society in the Republic of Kenya is family. A basic unit is family. But families are organized around a bigger family and extended family for that matter. And you cannot divorce the fact, as we see today and backward, that we do not have a common origin. And the moment you try to disassociate that, we are living in an academic society, not real. And therefore, to address the economic issues of the people of Kenya in the regions and the counties that they are founded, the same constitution acknowledges our ethnic diversity in a very positive manner. Therefore, we must to synergize the strength and the uniqueness and the hard working of Kisis and Kikuyus and the Maa communities and the Kamba communities, the Lake region and the Mombasa region to do it. And therefore, that economic aspect of empowering the Kenyan must be looked through a prism to reflect that in the current circumstances as they are.
Senator, in a minute, the agenda changing the political scene 2027, how critical and key is that?
It's very critical. And I think my beginning point would be we first of all must debunk what we are being told by President William Ruto, that his policies can transform us to
Third world.
first world.
From third to third.
I mean, this explain to me as a standard one kid. How will the policies of taking is it 2,000 shillings, 500? What you call economic empowerment to people? 64 shillings. How will that transform this country into first world status? It's not doable, because I've not seen. Tell me, if you look at Ruto's statement, have you seen anywhere where he has made a pronouncement on fighting corruption?
No.
Have you seen?
No.
None. He has not even made a statement on now he's going to uplift Kenyans from poverty. My farmers, Dismas.
Tea and coffee farmers.
The bonus we're earning is 20 shillings. So the best way is let's have our agenda on the table. We reduce taxation. We make housing project to be a public housing for the poor. We create a business environment where we can encourage more investors to come. We deal with infrastructure so that we can lift this country from the poverty circles we are in to a developed country where there can be happiness for Kenyans.
A good place to end the conversation. Kongo Mogeni, Senator Nyamira County, and Douglas Mbili, Speaker, County Assembly of Makueni I, on 2027 political strategies and alignment. And we've just ruled out that the most important part is having an agenda. But even as that happens, Magadi Road has just gotten hotter. And why is that? Because Naivas is in town now. The brand new Naivas One Mall Magadi Road branch is officially opened. Now, being the 111th Naivas branch, Naivas appreciates everyone, all of us, for the 35 years of loyalty, love, and growth. Now, traffic may be moving slow, but Magadi Road is moving fast with excitement. And you know that what that means. It means fresh deals, fresh vibes. It means aisles full of favorites. Now, if you love convenience, quality, and that Naivas freshness, this is the spot for you. So when you hit Magadi Road, make that quick stop shop, Kikwetu style, and experience the Naivas One Mall magic on Magadi Road for a chance to win daily on items below 1,000 bob. Weekly, you can grab toasters, blenders, kettles, and win big on TVs, fridges, microwaves, and so much more. Naivas saves you money. It's 10 minutes after 9 a.m. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.